Namaste, Jai Bharat. The phenomenon of illegal immigration is a problem with many people, many nations. It's only after President Trump assuming office, the US takes this thing as serious. But Bharat always had the problem of illegal immigrants. They're actually infiltrators in disguise. This is actually an increasing phenomenon. They come to Bharat, they cross the borders somehow, and they have supporters within. There is enemy within the nation. It's not just enemy property within the nation, there are also enemies within the nations who are akin to the enemy property, the owners, erstwhile owners who left the nation to migrate to some other nation out of disrespect to this nation fundamentally. So there are people supporters. It's maybe yesterday or day before yesterday somewhere, one of the very, very recent times, from a place near Kochi, 27 illegal Bangladeshis were arrested yesterday for one of these days. But they have all the documents with them. They have PAN card, personal identity account number, which of course belongs to the income tax department. They have PAN card, they have Aadhaar card, everything. Everything is fabricated and fake. And these people are brought in there by the now banned Popular Front of India, who wanted to make Bharat a Darul Islam by 2047. Their target was the 100 years of independence from 1947 to 2047. By 2047, they thought or they wanted to make Bharat a Darul Islam, which means an Islamic nation. This is the political Islamist policy. Now, this is of course not a new thing that they wanted to make Darul Islam. In my knowing, the first person who wanted a pan-Islamic nation in Bharat, which of course is much larger than today's Bharat as the thing, was Jamaluddin Afghani. This Jamaluddin Afghani is actually a very shady character in the sense that he has nothing to do with Afghanistan, but he simply assumed the name Afghani after his original name Jamaluddin. He is basically from Tehran. Tehran means Persia, that's today's Iran. And he is not a Sunni Muslim, he is a Shia Muslim. So he wanted to hide his Shia identity because he knew in Bharat and Afghanistan and places like that, Sunnis are in majority. Therefore, he wanted to project himself as a Sunni Muslim. Thereupon, he changed his name to Jamaluddin Afghani. But in actual case, he has only visited 2 times Afghanistan, and the second time the army of Afghanistan kicked him out. This is the story of Jamaluddin Afghani. Jamaluddin Afghani wanted to be like Humayun. Humayun, the Mughal invader to Bharat, who actually is the beginning of the beginning of Mughal stay in Bharat started. And to just look at Humayun, Afghani is comparing himself with Humayun. Just walks into Bharat with few army and then gets in and finally becomes the Badshah of Agra, Delhi, Sultanate Delhi, Agra, whatever. And then he had this son, Akbar, and all kinds of things. So, for Jamaluddin, these people were the models. If the Turks or somewhere else can come to Bharat and rule, what can Jamaluddin? Jamaluddin was rich enough to do all those things. So he came to Bharat with this Islamic policy of Darul Islam, and he had an advantage in the sense that his mother tongue is Persian, Farsi. And those days, that's with the Mughal rule, those days, the Muslims were learning Persian language. See, the Hindus were learning Sanskrit language, because the temples used to be the center of all knowledge traditions. Pathshalas used to be there in temples. So Hindus were learning Sanskrit. So therefore, to juxtapose Hindus, they wanted to learn a language, and someone wisely selected Farsi, Persian language, against Arabic. Because, that's very interesting because this Farsi language, Persian language, had a literature, very rich literature, because they translated almost all those days good books into Farsi, Persian language. All Panchachandra was translated from Sanskrit, Katha Siddhisagara was translated from Sanskrit. So many Sanskrit texts were translated. So they had a literary tradition. That must be the reason that the Mughals adopted Farsi as their classical language, and just to juxtapose the Hindus, when the Hindu students were studying Sanskrit, the affluent Muslim family children were forced to study Farsi. So almost all educated Muslims those days. Then by the time Jamaluddin came to Bharat, knew Farsi. So Jamaluddin came and just conveniently spoke to these people in his own mother tongue, Farsi, Persian. And the people thought he must be a great scholar because he speaks Farsi so fluently. He'd gone up to Hyderabad, the south, Deccan, the south of Bharat, and he lived there also for some time. So this Jamaluddin is the one who thought of this Darul Islam. He wanted to make Bharat an Islamic nation. Many people wanted to make Bharat an Islamic nation. And why do you think in 1857 the Muslims supported the struggle for independence? It's Swatantra Veer Savarkar who called 1857 struggle as the first struggle for independence. Why do you think there is support? Because they thought, the British, they took over from the Mughals. Therefore, they were the last Mughal lineage, so-called Emperor Basha, Bahadur Shah Zafar. And they crowned him actually also to be the Badshah, king of Delhi Sultanate to that extent. so that's why they support. They wanted an Islamic rule. So the very support to 1857 struggle was just because they thought of getting the power back from the British, since they assumed that their rule was handed over to British from the Mughals and so on. So it has to come back. That kind of logic, the logic used to work in their minds. They supported, and subsequently, of course, they stood with Congress for some time until they made their own nations. If not for the entire Bharat, at least a chunk of Bharat they wanted to take as Pakistan. So comes two nation theory and all stories subsequently, that foreign secretariat, all those kind of things comes much later. So the point is, this process, which had started long back, let me presumably at the time of with Jamaluddin's Afghani onwards, this continues, and even today. That's how the organization Political Front of India, with larger support from the political Islamist supporters from Kerala, comes into existence, which of course got banned very recently. So they have brought this. They were facilitating all the identities of infiltrators from Bangladesh. So it's 2 days back, some 27 Bangladeshis were arrested with evidence. It has been demonstrated and proved that the documents they produced as citizens of Bharat, that is Aadhaar and PAN card, etc., they were fake, fabricated, fake. And like that, when they come to Bharat, there are agencies. The agencies, they take money and give them citizenships and etc. All these fake documents. And who really pays the money for all these things? Most of them coming from places like Bangladesh, they come with empty-handed, not even with sufficient clothes. They come in. So they are given money, like agencies like that Popular Front, which is now banned. So this Kochi near place, yesterday, the 27, I suppose, yesterday day for yesterday, so the 27 Bangladeshis arrested were facilitated by the Popular Front of India. It's only recently, a year or like that, before this Popular Front was declared as a banned organization in Bharat, but till then they were working. They They were getting money from all kinds of sources imaginably. Anyone can imagine that from where they used to get money. They were getting money and they were doing these kind of things with the very distant objective of making Bharat an Islamic nation. But let's see, this is what Hamas was doing. They wanted to get rid of Israel. Hezbollah was doing. They have the similar tenet and character, and they don't mind losing their lives, because losing their lives is nothing for them, since they are assured that all the facilities or all the things which were forbidden while living on this earth, forbidden, like alcohol, this thing, that thing, whatever is declared as haram, forbidden in Islam during the earthly life, are permitted in abundance in a in a life, after life living. That's after death living, after death living in this assumed heaven. So there all these things are permitted. Whatever is denied is permitted there. So practically the jihadis, they have this psychological attitude that they believe that they don't live here, and they would live after they die. With such thoughts, how can they be redeemed? How can anyone redeem them? They are irredeemables with such thoughts. So they do all these kinds of things, and as I hear someone saying that nearly 2.5+ lakhs of Bangladeshis are there alone in Kerala, are there in Kerala alone. That's what the report was saying. Now, it's only about speaking about Bangladeshis. How about the Rohingyans? How about any others? How about the Pakistanis? There are quite a few Pakistanis living in this case in Bharat. One or two gets identified in Britain and gets plucked. So, this is the situation of the Bangladeshis in Kerala alone. How about Uttar Pradesh? How about Bihar? How about other places? How about Kashmir? How about Jammu and Kashmir? Just think about these things. So many people have already come in Bharat, and they have got the documents through these kind of agencies like Popular Front, and they are there. Very interestingly, if you see these people, if you understand Bangla, you can immediately pick them up as Bangladeshis, because the Bangla which they speak, or Rohingyans, the kind of Bangla which they speak, demonstrates that they are not Bengalis of Bharat. That just from the language, just from the dialect, you can make out. Because they don't speak the kind of Calcutta Bangla or the Parishkrit Bangla, what you call in West Bengal. They speak this either by mentioning Bengal or Chittagong Bengali, or most likely Sylheti Bengali, which of has its roots in Sylhet district. So most of them do speak Sylheti Bengali with a distinct difference with the other original Bangla. Original means original from our perspective, Bharat perspective, which is closer to Sanskrit. So they are speaking all these versions. So from the language which you understand that they are not originally from Bharat. Secondly, you ask them their name. That's very interesting. They will never tell their original name. They say only these names. Either they say they are themselves. Their name is Bablu, or sometimes Paplu, sometimes Munna. Most often Raju and Munna. These are the two names they use. Raju, Munna. These names don't reveal their religion, because such names are for all people. Put this pet names, nicknames, but their real name they will never say. Even names they tell lies. You ask them where they are. Someone would say he's a Malda, of course, is border of Bangladesh, or someone would say that he's Murshidabad. All these names they say the places within Bharat. So this is a situation that they had been infiltrating, and so I think we have to make this Guantanamo for these kind of people in Bharat or some islands of ours. It's a serious, very, very serious thing. Actually, the people should cooperate with the government. When you find someone really spurious with fake IDs, if you suspect fake ID, then they can easily do it. In 2 minutes time, we can verify whether it is real or fake. You should inform the government people, and the government agencies should take these things serious and act. That's necessary for our existence. So we meet again with some other thoughts till then. Namaste, Jai Bharat, Jai Sri Ram.